I want to thank everybody for the tremendous support. I'm going to Walter Reed Hospital. I think I'm doing very well, but we're going to make sure that things work out. The First Lady is doing very well. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. I will never forget it. Thank you.
A historic day at the White House. President Trump moments ago thanking his supporters after hours later learning that he had tested positive for COVID-19. Tonight, the president is at Walter Reed Medical Center in Washington, where he will remain for a few days after testing positive. The White House now trying to track down everyone who recently had contact with the president. Local experts explain why this is so important. Plus, the biggest story today, of course, the President and First Lady of the U.S. testing positive for COVID-19. Now, here is the very latest we have. President Trump landed at Walter Reed Hospital less than an hour ago, where he will remain for a few days on the advice of doctors. He's had a fever all day, we're told, and received an experimental antibody cocktail called Regeneron. The White House physician says the president is fatigued, but is in good spirits. The First Lady has a mild cough and a headache, but remains at the White House. Their teenage son, Barron, tested negative. Vice President Pence and the Second Lady, Karen Pence, are in the clear, as are former Vice President Joe Biden and Senator Kamala Harris. A Houston medical expert told us today he preferred to see the president in the hospital. Here are the things to consider. The president is 74. His most recent physical shows he is 6'3", weighs 244 pounds, which is considered clinically obese. Those conditions, along with the disease itself, give virology and vaccine expert Dr. Peter Hotez from Baylor College of Medicine concern about where the president spends the next few days.
His risk factors, his age, comorbidities, the risk of sudden death, I would feel more comfortable if he were being monitored at Walter Reed Army Medical Center.
And that's exactly what happened. Hotez adds he is not surprised the president contracted the disease, since he is often seen in public and at campaign events without a mask. He also thinks contact tracing will be difficult. The president visited 4 states for rallies and the debate this past week. And here we are, just 32 days left until Election Day, and President Trump's schedule has been jam-packed with campaign events. A positive COVID diagnosis brings all that to a screeching halt. Now the White House has a lot of contact tracing to do. Anieli Ruiz explains.
The White House has become the focus for the most closely watched contact tracing. This after White House aide Hope Hicks, President Donald Trump, and the First Lady all tested positive for COVID-19. Take a look. You can see President Donald Trump had an active travel schedule this week, holding events Monday through Thursday across the country. And here's a list of people the president came in contact with. It'll be up to the contact tracers to reach them. They'll ask them to quarantine to prevent the spread of the disease, and they'll find out who they've been in contact with to let those people know they should get tested.
The disease detectives, if you will, to then put a narrative together, a story of that individual, and based on that, try to figure out then who they need to contact so they can really now interrupt transmission.
Here in Harris County, we currently have 262 contact tracers. The problem they encounter at times, people don't always remember who they were around or may not have their contact information. In the meantime, all eyes will be on the White House to see how big the infection cluster is. Anieli Ruiz, KHOU 11 News.
All right, so what happens going forward? The vice presidential debate between Mike Pence and Kamala Harris will go on as scheduled next Wednesday. That debate will take place at the University of Utah. Follow all the latest developments on KHOU.com and our mobile app. You can read up on what Governor Abbott and other state leaders have to say about the president's diagnosis. Plus, there is a reaction pouring in from around the world, and former Vice President Joe Biden's statement to the Trump family.